or in hell.
11 insane movies only for Hellraiser lovers. Horror enthusiasts all over the world have admired the works of Clive Barker, the prominent British novelist and director. However, when his work was initially being adapted into movies, they didn't do so well. Rawhead Rex, for instance, faltered at the box office, and Barker decided he would have to take up the director's hat as well to do justice to his stories. When he adapted his novel The Hellbound Heart into Hellraiser, the world got the first glimpse of this visionary director. It was his first attempt at direction, but he beautifully captured the true horrifying essence of the novel. Despite the graphic nature of the movie, it was a massive success and prompted numerous sequels. It did become an iconic horror franchise, but Clive Barker did not write or direct any of the sequels. Hellraiser lovers have been a fan of the bizarre plot and, of course, the creepy Cenobites led by Pinhead. The brutality of sadomasochism mixed with the hellish atmosphere made sure that the film attained a cult status. There have been attempts to replicate the theme in many movies, and in this video, we have picked out a list of films that the Hellraiser fans will love watching.
Before we go into our list, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click from you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you. Let's begin.
Oh my God.
Am I to understand this is not something you wish to see?
Uh-huh.
Very well.
Wishmaster, 1997. In 1997, a jewel that holds a djinn hostage was destroyed, and Alexandra Amberson, a young gemologist, accidentally awakened the creature. It takes a human form and sets out to fulfill 3 wishes from an individual, and Alexandra must find a way to stop him and save humanity. Wishmaster is an original and innovative attempt to put together a fantasy horror classic. The premise promises a lot more than the movie finally delivers, but even then, it's an intriguing watch. Many dismiss this film as a mere gore fest full of cheesy dialogues, but they have to realize that this is only a B-movie and has to be judged accordingly. The story puts to question the usual perception of genies and shows them as evil creatures that can cast horrible consequences after fulfilling wishes. There are some jaw-dropping moments in the movie, especially when Alex is running through the walls of the museum, and the statues of historical warriors are coming to life and attacking her. The makeup and special effects aren't top-notch, but certainly better than the average B-movie. We also loved the cameo roles by horror icons like Robert Englund, Tony Todd, Kane Hodder. The djinn speaks so much like Pinhead that you will draw parallels with Hellraiser at one point. There were 3 sequels after the success of this film, but this movie had way more substance than them. Although the sequels couldn't do justice to the subject matter, the original Wishmaster is a must-watch for all you horror fans out there.
You don't want to do that. Give me a good reason why not.
I'll give you 2.
Nightbreed, Director's Cut, 1990. It narrates the troubles of a man named Aaron Boone who is disturbed by some terrifying nightmares that feature scary monsters. He brings his problems to a psychiatrist, Dr. Decker, who is secretly a serial killer. He plans to put the blame on Boone and convinces him that he is actually the murderer. A deadly confrontation with the police leads Boone to discover that the monsters are real, and the real evil is the doctor who must be brought to justice. This is yet another gem from the closets of Clive Barker, who directed his own story to perfection. We often hear how the production studios ruin entire movies by chopping off random parts according to their whims and fancies. In the case of Nightbreed, Fox Studios did the same as they drastically cut crucial bits, including most of the graphic violence. They even prompted the movie all wrong and hailed it as just another slasher flick, although the plot was so much deeper. The intricate plot showed the monsters as the good guys, and the twisted dark narrative gets a kick out of David Cronenberg's performance. The famed horror director plays the role of the evil doctor, and he stands out as a terrific antagonist. Everything from the sets to the costumes to make up belies the fact that the film was made on a meager budget. The monsters are surely going to remind you of the Cenobites from Hellraiser.
We mustn't! It's the law!
Fuck the law. I want meat.
The apocalyptic finale will blow your mind and make you admire this remarkable horror fantasy. If you plan on watching this, do opt for the director's cut, which was later conceived by putting together the missing footage that was eliminated. Baskin. 5 Turkish cops are killing time at a local restaurant while patrolling a neighborhood. Suddenly, they receive a call for backup and rush to address the call that came from a creepy part of town. The region had been associated with several supernatural stories, but the last thing they expected was to run into a big black mass in an abandoned building. This black mass was a gateway to hell, and they soon find themselves in a hellish world where there is no escape. Turkish movies do not often make a mark in the United States, but this one was clearly an exception. The concept was fascinating and deeply terrifying, and the audience loved the depth of the plot. Once they enter the hellish dimension, the depravity that they find within the walls will seem straight out of a Clive Barker story. The character of the father is clearly inspired by Pinhead, and you will soon be greeted by some serious violence and gore. From extreme torture, blood and guts, and forced sex, to eyes being gouged out, this film is a rough ride not meant for the squeamish. We have never been more disturbed ever since Hellraiser for all the gore that makes Baskin stand out. The visual aspect of this movie does give out an art film vibe, and the quality acting performances help the cause. The director John Evernall deserves all the credit for making every scene from intestines being pulled out to car crashes looking realistic and haunting for the viewer. If you can handle the gore fest, Baskin is an inventive and nightmarish Turkish horror flick that is definitely worth your time. Lord of Illusions, 1995. In the year 1982, an evil cult leader, Nyx, was murdered by Swan, but the fanatic cult members are still awaiting the resurrection of their leader. In the meantime, Swan has become a famous illusionist, and a private detective is hired by his wife Dorothea, who seeks help for some strange crimes. While the detective witnesses a show by Swan, he is mysteriously killed during one of the acts. The detective soon learns that all that seemed like illusions might have been real magic, and the evil cult might have a lot more to it than meets the eye. Clive Barker has this uncanny ability to create some terrifying storylines out of nowhere, and he does it yet again in the film Lord of Illusions, which is based on his novel titled The Last Illusion. Not only does the film develop an eerie atmosphere, but even the characters are somewhat shady. The detective, for instance, has a dark side and is troubled by his experience of some extreme cases that took a toll on his mental health.
Dig, Damur. Touch the darkness. It's been waiting for you.
Barker explores the world of demons, magic, and religion in a credible way, and the touch of realism makes things scarier for us. Nyx is the perfect villain, and Daniel von Bergen nails the character with his performance. From your experience of Clive Barker, you would know that things are bound to get bloody and terrible, and it does. But if that doesn't pose a problem for you, this movie can be just as enriching as Hellraiser. If you can get your hands on the extended director's edition, it would be the best way to enjoy this movie. The Platform, 2019. In a dystopian future, a terrifying vertical prison is constructed where 2 people live in each cell. The prison has 1 cell per level, and there is only 1 food platform that descends. The inmates get 2 minutes to feed themselves, and with limited resources, the survival struggle is brutal and raw. If the people in the above platforms eat too much, the people living below will get less. Goreng wakes up to find himself in this insane place, and he learns that people living in the lower levels often resort to cannibalism to survive. He is determined to get together a plan for the people in this prison. The Platform is a largely misunderstood movie with an engaging storyline that reflects on our society in many ways. In this well-executed social commentary, there is a lot of interesting symbolism that will catch your eye. The levels are the representation of the societal classes and class division, while Goreng is a resistance to break free of the inequality. However, his character can only influence people who are below his level because the people above are beyond his control. Ivan Massagué, the man who plays Goreng, does a brilliant job, and so does the supporting cast. This movie is open for interpretation, but we didn't really like the way things ended abruptly. There is another interesting thing in the movie that will strike you as strange. Usually, when you see a very tall building, the floors are usually numbered from lowest to highest, from bottom to top, but in this case, it's the exact opposite. There is some graphic violence and a few disgusting moments that will make you look away. Although the hasty ending leaves a bad taste, this is an interesting film that deserves way more attention.
Let me give you a hand, Bill.
Society, 1989. Bill feels like a misfit in his family, as he is pretty down to earth, while his parents only seem keen to mix with the upper-class people. His sister's boyfriend bugs their family and shows Bill disturbing videos which hint at weird practices, including incest. Soon, the boyfriend dies in a car accident, and Bill takes it upon himself to find out the truth about his family. His findings point towards a gruesome orgy cult that has been devised for the social elite. This is not a movie for the weak-hearted folks. This movie marks the directorial debut of Brian Yuzna, and he shocks his audience out of their wits in his very first outing. He takes a jibe at the high societal culture, and even in the horror that unfolds, you wouldn't miss a social commentary. Brian Yuzna has gone on record to state that he purposefully focused more on the surrealism of the movie than the logic. During the production, he added the scenes where Bill watches Jenny's body distort in the shower to add more shock value to the film. The climatic shunting scenes are horrifying and will leave you disturbed. Yuzna avoided the use of any blood to avoid backlash from the censors, but even then, the perverse madness is shocking. The special effects by the talented Screaming Mad George make this one of the most graphic and disturbing climaxes in horror film history. Martyrs, 2008. Lucy was tortured and abused as a child, and after many years, she somehow managed to escape from the place in an abandoned slaughterhouse. She is determined on revenge against those who oppressed her and gets her childhood friend Anna to help her out. Anna has also been victim to abuse, and she readily jumps into the mission without thinking of the consequences. However, it soon dawns on them that they have ruffled the feathers of a vile secret organization, and a terrifying journey begins for them. Will they be successful in their revenge mission? Martyrs will show you a side of violence that you didn't know existed. Emotional violence. The comparisons to movies like Hostel are bound to occur, but let us assure you that this is as original of a horror story as you can get. For us, the scariest part was the clinical detachment of the antagonists. We loved the unbridled tension that combines with the eerie atmosphere to create an engaging project. The acting performances, the unforgiving landscapes, and the musical score all add to the brilliance of Martyrs. Jessie Pham has been particularly impressive as young Lucy, and the other members of the cast also did justice in their roles. The climax can be a bit depressing after all the brutal scenes that you will go through. The gore is of the magnitude that you experienced in Hellraiser, and random dismemberments will remind you of the horrors of the Cenobites. This nightmare-inducing stuff is certainly not meant to be watched alone, and this is a movie that we have loved but will probably never watch again. The Void, 2016. Sheriff Carter spots a severely injured man on a deserted road and rushes him to a local hospital. The hospital is understaffed, and he notices something strange around the place. Some cloaked, cult-like figures started surrounding the building and prevented people from getting out. The staff and patients started losing their minds, and Carter makes a desperate attempt to protect them by leading them deeper into the hospital. However, they find a gateway to horrifying evil, and there seems to be no way out of this hell. The Lovecraftian vibe in this film is obvious, and you can tell that it's been inspired by movies like The Thing and Hellraiser. This is a gift for the fans of classic horror when practical effects ruled over CGI and jump scares. Even though The Void is relatively modern, it relies on practical effects that give you the ideal old-school vibe. Everything from the monsters to the gore has been created by the practical effects team. The influence of Clive Barker runs throughout the movie, and you will see body horror in its most sinister and foreboding form. The only possible flaws with the movie are the screenplay and the shoddy dialogues that disturb the theme at times. However, you will be quick to forgive such issues after being impressed with some outstanding production designs. The characters are believable, and some sound acting performances help the movie. The Void doesn't answer all your queries, but the makers claim that they intentionally keep the Black Pyramid and the cult a mystery to allow viewers to interpret their own explanations. Necromentia, 2009. Travis cared for his mentally disturbed brother, and after his brother passed away, Travis was desperate to find him in the afterlife. This leads him to Morbius, who is a demon but once had a human form. His loved ones betrayed him, and if Travis can help him with his revenge, he promises to arrange for his brother as well. In the mix of things, there is also the story arc of a man who is sheltering the body of his decomposing dead wife in the hope that he can revive her. The jumps from the human world to the hellish demonic world will bring back Hellraiser flashbacks in the viewer.
Let your insolence be your suffering.
Necromentia is like someone blended Hellraiser and Saw together and served it on a platter. It's a rather unapologetic and unforgiving horror film that doesn't waste time on lame jokes to kill the mood. Some of the characters have zero regards for their lives, and it gives a nice cinematic view of how the price of immortal souls would be terrible. The basic concept remains perilously close to Hellraiser, and we see people fiddling with the occult to get a chance to peek into the world beyond. The demons with chains and hooks on their faces make it pretty obvious that Clive Barker's classic has been a strong inspiration. There are some twisted scenes that will make you shift in your seats, and besides the sadomasochism, a demon in a pig mask seducing its victims to commit suicide is also pretty morbid. Even with a low budget, Necromentia does the trick of being a successful Hellraiser-themed movie, and we strongly recommend this for the fans. The Resurrected, 1991. Charles Dexter Ward is a chemical engineer who of late has been into some strange experiments. He gets delivery of things that seem like human remains, and using these foul-smelling materials, he conducts some weird experiments in a remote cabin owned by them. His wife appoints a detective to learn about his whereabouts, and they find a diary that belonged to Dexter's ancestor from 1771. They suspect that the experiments being conducted are extremely unnatural, and the gruesome murders in the locality point to something sinister being planned in the cabin. H.P. Lovecraft never ceases to amaze us with his terrifying tales, and The Resurrected is one more feather on his cap. However, the movie adaptation has very little correlation with the original text, and it's somewhat loosely based on the theme. It starts off like any random detective story and soon transforms into a horror classic. This happened to be the last work of the Scotti Brothers Pictures, and although they intended to have a theatrical release, the film eventually went straight to video. One of the crowning glories for this movie is the way the sets were made. The underground lab in particular was simply marvelous, and the plentiful gore is made to look pretty realistic. There are scenes with a lot of blood and guts, and you have to handle abominations like the still-living mauled torso. You will almost smell the putrid flesh. Such is the gore quotient of this film. It never gets boring, and the director Dan O'Bannon successfully keeps the mystery alive all through the movie. The acting performances are decent, and the likes of John Terry and Chris Sarandon are well suited for their roles. The Resurrected is certainly one of the better Lovecraftian adaptations, and the morbidity will give you flashbacks of the Hellraiser movies. Night Angel, 1990. A demon temptress from the depths of hell is looking for souls that would help her in taking over the world. She takes the guise of a beautiful, alluring lady in the glamour industry and seduces unsuspecting men to be her victims. This heart-ripping demon soon starts to spread her evil through the magazine that she works for. The entire staff working for the magazine turn into zombie-like beings, and only one of the employees named Craig resists the change. Can he defeat the mighty demon, or will he just be added to her list of victims? Night Angel has a very basic plot, but it's still a reasonably well-made horror flick. While the script isn't the strongest asset for this movie, the sensational set pieces and the surrealistic photography become the saving grace. The story has a sensual touch, and the violence is marred by sexuality, a quality that will bring back some Hellraiser memories. The lethal demonic succubus Lilith is well portrayed by the gorgeous Issa Jank, and she is quite a sight for sore eyes. There are some startling moments of gruesome scenes, and the stylish cinematography promises a wonderful viewing experience. A special word of praise has to be reserved for the terrifyingly grotesque makeup effects by Steve Johnson. This is no unforgettable classic, but this exciting horror movie delivers what it promises.
This is all the time we had for today's episode. We hope you guys liked it. It would be awesome if you guys can take some time to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to tell us which topic you want us to cover in the comment section. Have a fantastic day ahead and stay safe.
Destroy yourself. Blow your brains out. Right now.
Very well.